Going to push.
Are going to record the session this morning, and thanks for being here for our fantastic pre-event. So we are lucky to have our PDE PFAS state team here. So Laurie, we'll turn it over to you to go ahead and get started. There's a link to the presentation in the chat as well.
Thanks, Corinne, and also all of the IU12 team for inviting me into your space today. My name is Laurie Colkin. I'm a member of the PFAS statewide team, and what I've been doing is working through IUs across the state on just some general updates with PFAS, some changes that have occurred over the past few years, some things that we're working on in the future, and then I'm also here to take any feedback that you have about how PFAS could be a more helpful analytic tool for you as we move forward. So thank you, IU12, thank you team for the audience and the time today. So let's get started. So today, just flicked through these slides. I've already talked about them. Our area of focus is taking a look at PFAS, what's changed, what's to come. And again, my name is Laurie. So let's jump right in. So what is PFAS? So those of you who've been familiar with PFAS, you know this already, but I thought I would just put this slide in here just in case we have different levels of understanding. So what is PFAS? PFAS is a data analysis and visualization tool. It is a tool available to all educators, public educators in Pennsylvania at no cost. And what we're able to do as a statewide project is we're able to keep the longitudinal data for your students and schools together intact in one place. So that's going to be your data over time related to, well, what's in PFAS is really two big buckets of data. We have the data that we call in PFAS the looking back data. And this analysis is on assessments that your students have already taken. So last year, your students took PSSAs. Last year, they took Keystones. Maybe they have also taken local assessments like Acadian, Stibbles, AimsWeb, MAP, STAR, iReady, IXL, those types of things. What PFAS offers is an analysis on the assessment data, which is officially called value-added analysis, but it's more commonly termed growth analysis. So one of the analyses that PFAS offers is this look back at assessments to determine growth. And how we do that is we take a group of students and we determine their entering average achievement level to that, say, grade level, for example. So we look back in their history and we say, your group of sixth graders entered sixth grade with this average achievement. And then what we do is we find their average achievement at the end of sixth grade as well. So what we're doing when we're talking about value-added analysis is we're comparing a group of students to themselves, but at two different points in time. So we're looking at the average achievement entering a year compared to the average achievement exiting the year. And then we're testing to see, is there a difference? And the reason that you would be interested in this as a group of curriculum folks is this is a really good data source to evaluate your programs. So if we're testing the difference between entering and exiting achievement, and we find that there's no difference, that means that your programming is working well enough to maintain the achievement level of the students. And in Pennsylvania, that is what would be called meeting the growth standard. So the growth standard in Pennsylvania is just having programming that works well enough to keep the kids where they are by the end of the year. And the color, if you're familiar with colors in PFAS, that would be the green color in PFAS. And then, of course, the value-added analysis will also let you know if your programming is working so well that your students are gaining ground. By the end of the program, those would be the blues in value-added PFAS. And then also, it gives you an indicator if the programming is working, students are gaining skills, they're learning things. However, it's just not enough to maintain their achievement. Those would be the yellows and reds. So we run that analysis on assessment data in PFAS. So the assessments that feed into PFAS are PSSAs, Keystones, and CDTs. Those feed into PFAS automatically. you can choose to feed in other assessments to PVOS for the same type of analysis. And we'll talk about that in a bit. The other piece of looking back data is for your individual students. We are able to track and provide back to you your students' testing history. And that's going to be across PSSAs, Keystones, CDTs, Access 4Ls, and then any other local assessment data that we have for those students. So that's what PVOS provides in a looking back, in an assessments that have already happened type of frame. The next big bucket of analysis that PVOS provides is what we would call looking forward, or projections. So what these are we're able to use our analysis to make a prediction for how well each one of your students will score on an assessment that they haven't taken yet, an upcoming assessment. So, for example, your currently enrolled fifth graders, we have a prediction or a projection to how they might score on the fifth grade PSSA ELA. Your currently enrolled seventh graders, we have predictions for how well they might score on a future Keystone, even a future AP exam. So we're able to utilize the analysis tools in PVOS to also draw out this future prediction based on what we know about your students' testing history and what we know about all of the students in Pennsylvania who have come before them and who have already taken these assessments. So when we're talking about PVOS, we're really talking about an analytic tool, and the data that pops out of it is this looking back type of data to help with that program evaluation, and then also looking forward data to help plan for students. So as the PVOS team, what's our goal? We aim to provide a high quality analytic tool available at no cost to all public LEAs in Pennsylvania. We want to make sure we're providing you access to data that is relevant to inform your decisions. And those decisions are at the student level, the teacher level, the school level, the district level. We aim to provide data to help with all of those decisions. And then we also want to provide a tool that's responsive to the growing and changing data needs of our educators in the state. And that's kind of what I'm here today to do, is to make sure that as we continue to grow and evolve as a PVOS tool, we're meeting your needs, because we're really looking to be a helpful piece of data as you work to inform your district level decisions and school level decisions. So we have made some changes in PVOS over the past 2 years. You've probably noticed. And the way that these changes come about are what we call our wish lists. So part of what PVOS provides is consultations across the state. So our team engages in what are called one-to-one data consultations, where we invite educators, and maybe you've even participated in these, to join us online, and we look through your PVOS data and we help you interpret your trends, identify different data points to help you make decisions that are of interest to you. So through those data consultations, we meet with thousands of people. Then we also show up in this space of webinars. We do a lot of webinars across the state. We also meet people through the webinars. And then we also show up in a lot of conferences, MTSS, special education, any of PDE's things, school administrators, those type of conferences, we show up there too. I tell you all of this to say we have the opportunity to interact with thousands of educators every year. And in those interactions, inevitably someone says, yes, I see what you're seeing on the screen. That's great. I just wish it would do blank. And they say something like, I wish it would do this. And what we do as a PVOS team is we collect those wishes and we create a wish list that then we share back to our developers. And we have had advancements based on those wish lists. So some things that have changed in the last couple of years based on the wishes was an expansion of student level data. So the wishes that came to us were like, I wish I could have access to a student's assessment history, even if they weren't always my student. Like, even if they weren't always with my LEA, I still want to see their history easily. I wish I could see if a student meets or beats their projection. I know PVOS makes a prediction for these students, but did the student meet it? Did the student beat it? I want to be able to see that easily. And then we heard, I want to see how close a student's projection is to making it to proficient. I know you provide me the probability, but is that really close? Is that not as close? So I want a better visualization for how close a student is to proficient or advanced. So what we did was we took a second look and we expanded what we're calling our students data backpack. So this is available right now in PVOS for each one of your students. Essentially what we're doing is we're taking your student and then we are filling their data backpack, their virtual data backpack, with everything we know about the student. Their history of PSSAs, Keystones, Access for Ls, CDT. And what we do is we care for that data and we ensure that that data will track with the student across years, as they move from school to school, and even as they move from district to district. As long as it's within public education in Pennsylvania, we take responsibility for making sure that that data tracks with the students. So one of the other advancements that we've had in PVOS is you can now use this tool to fill your students' data backpack with your own local assessment data. So we call it the local assessment data collection. And you can provide us with your local assessment data, and we will fill up the student data backpack and ensure that that data tracks with the student. So those would be your local assessments that are nationally normed. Like I said, like the Acadian, Stibbles, Study Island, those types of assessments. And then what do we do with it? We feed it back to you in a clear visualization. So for each one of your students, you get this, what's called a student report in PVOS. And what you're able to see is what's on the screen here is the student's assessment history. So this is going to provide you that individual student assessment history, and you can see your assessments here on this left-hand filter panel. We do it automatically for the things that are on the screen now. And then if you chose to include your local assessments would just start to appear on the list. The names of your local assessments would just be right there. Also, what we've changed up in student is that we now have this way to easily see if a student met or exceeded their predicted score in the past. And that is the past predicted option right here. It's on the right-hand side where it says growth across time. Past predicted now gives you a quick visualization to say, has this student met or exceeded their prediction of the past? There's your answer. And then also to help address that, how close to proficient is this student, we changed up some of the visualization. The projections are available as they always were, but now for each one of your students, we've included this visualization of projections, this colorful bar here on the right-hand side. So what we're looking at is the normal curve, like what we know from our education classes. It's just tipped up on its side. So for each one of your students, we would say that their most likely score is at the peak of this normal curve. We put a black dotted line there to make it show up. And the color bands represent the proficiency levels. So at the top, that bluish is the advanced, green is proficient, orangey or yellowy is basic, and maybe orange is below basic. So now you get to see where your normal curve, where that black dotted line, is this student very, very close to being advanced? Is this student very, very close to being proficient? So it helps with that visualization for interpretation. So that's some advances that we made in student reporting. All that's available right now. We've also made some expansions to growth reporting. I wish I could have a wider view of assessment data rather than just the PSSAs and the Keystones. Like I mentioned before, PSSA data runs through PVOS for analysis. That happens automatically. So does Keystone data, so does CDT. So we're looking for a wider view of assessments. And PVOS has a lot of pre-structured groupings and pre-structured reports, but people wanted to be able to manipulate that. Like, I want to see the growth trends by the student groupings that I select. So what we know about PVOS value added and growth measures, the colors have stayed the same. So that hasn't changed in PVOS. So as I mentioned before, in our growth analysis, we're really testing a group of students at 2 different points in time. What's their achievement entering the year? What was their achievement exiting the year? If that was the same about, then that would be called green, and we would say that maintains, and in Pennsylvania that would be called meeting the growth standard. If there's a difference, if the group exits at a higher achievement level than what they enter, that's when you'll start to see the blues in PVOS. We would say that the students gained ground. And then yellow and red in PVOS, we would say that the students fell behind. Just as you're working with your principals and you're working with your teachers, if you do see yellows in PVOS, sometimes what people say to me is, does that mean like these kids have regressed? Like I've sucked knowledge out of their heads? I would not say that, not at all. What I would say is, I am sure your students learned things. I am sure they gained in skills. However, the programming wasn't enough to help them maintain their achievement level. So when you see yellows and reds, that's an indication that you want to tweak, like you want to further investigate that program, look into more data sources, see what other trends exist. So one thing that I do want to say about green is, while it is the growth standard for Pennsylvania, it only works to maintain achievement. So if you're looking to close gaps with your lower achievers, green isn't going to do it. So green is not enough to close gaps for students with a history of lower achievement. All right, I see some action in the chat. Let's see here. Will you see it? Will you please discuss how adding local data does or does not affect projection in terms of value added scores derived for teachers from projections, and hope to have some clarity? Yes, I would like to talk about that. Sure. So local assessment data is an optional collection. That's something that you can choose to do or not choose to do. But if you choose to do it, there are a few benefits. One is the student level benefit, which is what I mentioned. We fill up their data backpacks with that. And then the other mention is, it might even be on my next slide here, we will provide growth data, but based on your local assessments. So we will run PSSA through the value added. And so you'll still see PSSA value added colors, but you will also get that same analysis done on your local assessment. It appears on the same screen, and it really helps to expand your view of data. So what are some things that happen with local assessments? You do get this value added analysis. However, it is available only on your password protected site. So this is something that is only available to you. It is not publicly available. You would need your password to see the value added analysis based on your local assessments. And that's nice, because it really is it's a tool designed to help you in your data investigations, in your problem solving, in your system analysis. Now, right now, and that's not on the screen, but I'm talking about projections for what you said. Right now, we build projections or predictions for students based on their history in PSSA only, or Keystone, PSSA and Keystone only. And we use it to predict to PSSAs, Keystones, APs, that sort of thing. What we're figuring out right now is, if we have local assessment data from you, can we like put that student projection in hyperdrive and like really hone it in by including that individual local data in conjunction with the PSSA data to make an even more pinpointed projection for the student? That's what we're investigating right now. So while it is not currently the case, right now our projections are based on only the state assessments, 2 state assessments. We are investigating whether we can create a model that includes local assessment data with state assessment data to make an even more pinpointed projection for the student. So that's something that's in the works. Now, you had mentioned teacher in your comment too. When it comes to local assessment data, none of that is available. None of that reporting is available in a teacher value added. So your teacher value added measures are based only on state tested subjects, only on PSSAs, only on Keystones, right? So if you submit local assessment data, that does not impact any teacher reporting. Teachers would have access to the reporting, but it doesn't affect the teacher's personal value added score. It would just be added data for the teacher to view when they're working on instructional planning. Let me know if that helped answer the question, or if I should speak to that a little bit more. Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. All right, here's the other thing that you get with local assessments, and you also, of course, get it with state assessments. Everybody gets it with state assessments, but if you want to include your locals, you can too. So, PVAS has always offered this, what would be called diagnostic. You might know it as the quintiles report, this looking at growth by achievement level. So as a statewide team, a PVAS statewide team, we're able to see statewide data. So we can take a look at students across the state, and we can line them up from lowest achieving all the way up to highest achieving. And then we group them into 5 equal buckets. And then what we do with those 5 equal buckets is we sprinkle your students into their appropriate bucket, and then we draw a growth color based on achievement. So this reporting has always been available for PSSAs and Keystones. And you can see here on the screen, this is an older screenshot of like 2023 PSSA. Looks like the number ones in this group. This district had 116 students who profiled among the lowest achievers in the state. Whoops. And as a group of lowest achievers, their growth color was blue. So their programming was working well enough for the lowest achievers to gain ground. So that's the type of information that this provides you. As you're working through your program evaluation, maybe you're setting goals, maybe you're deciding what you want to keep, what you want to tweak. This type of information breaks down that whole grade level into smaller groups. But now a difference is in this base test and subject here, you can see that I have PSSA showing in the base test and subject, but this arrow indicates that it's a drop down. So you can do this analysis on any local assessment then that you submit. So you can have this same power of saying, how are my lower achievers, middle achievers, higher achievers growing based on the Acadience assessment. So you can start to have these same types of conversations. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, same conversations, same type of analysis. You're just running different assessments through it. So that's a change within the last, I think, 3 years has been the local assessment collection. But then what we've also done in the diagnostic report is we've made it easier for you to regroup your students. So instead of just having that preset quintile report that we've always had, what we now can do is we've made this a filter. And again, you have this black arrow down. Now you can regroup your students. So on the diagnostic, it defaults. It defaults to grouping by that state achievement group or the quintile group. But you can press that black arrow and easily regroup students by any of the characteristics. So the one I have here on the screen is English learner. And the reason I chose this is because this structure is, you're going to see that in many student grouping options. It's kind of this yes, no structure. So what we do is we ask you to choose a grouping or a demographic or characteristic. And in this case, it's English learners. So your students who are yes English learners get dropped into the yes column, and then we draw a growth color for your English learners. And your students who are no, not English learners, get dropped into the no column, and we draw a growth color for your not English learners. So what you're able to see are growth patterns in mutually exclusive groups. So this is your yes English learners as compared to not English learners. I like this view because in some of the other reports, you can see English learners against all students, but then English learners are included in all students. So like you're looking, in this case, what you're able to see are students who have this characteristic against students who don't. So boys against girls, students with IEPs, what does that look like compared to students who do not have IEPs? So like it's this yes, no type of comparison that helps to shed some light. And now this is available too. So you have this option right now in diagnostics. And again, on any base test and subject that you have. And then if none of these groupings work for you either, down here at the bottom of the filter panel, you can select the students you want to include. So that would just be click on the list and then include whichever students that you want. So this is my last change in the last couple of years, are these ideas about improvements in access. We've heard, I wish I could have teachers automatically connected to their current students in PVOS. Teachers are busy. They do not have time to search PVOS for all of their students. Just give them the kids that they're responsible for, and then they'll use the data. So that was a change that we looked at for this year. And then also, I wish I could see my current students represented in PVOS more quickly. Enrollment changes all the time, and PVOS just doesn't update it fast enough. So that's something that we're working on too. So this new for this year was called the Teacher Student Linkage Collection. Just like local assessments, teacher student linkage was an optional collection. You didn't have to participate, but if you did participate, what we did was you gave us your teachers and their current students, the ones they're responsible for. And we took that information and we fed it back to the teachers in their PVOS account in a list like this. So instead of the teachers having to search for their currently enrolled students in PVOS, they just went to what was called their custom student report, and then they saw their list of students. So when you see a list of students like that, you can click on any student's name and then get access to the student report, which has the history and projections for each individual student. But what you can also do is you can keep your whole class together like this and just run a projection for your whole class. Like, for example, this is a projection out to 8th grade PSSA English Language Arts Proficient. So it makes accessing the data easier. All the data is in PVOS, right? All this did was just make it easier for teachers by pulling it all together, their current students. The other thing that we did this year is we pulled student enrollment more frequently. Any of these things that I'm talking about, like how we pull this data, that all happens through the Pennsylvania Information Management System, or PIMS. So when we collect local assessment data, it's through a PIMS submission. When we collected the teacher-student linkages, it's through a PIMS submission. And how we do student enrollment updates are through your PIMS student enrollment submission. So you submit student enrollment to PIMS and we take a snapshot of it. So an improvement for this year is we grabbed it 6 times. September, October, November, January, February, March is the times that we grabbed your student enrollment to update it in PVOS. Now, I know your enrollment changes more than 6 times. So this is something that we're still working on. So 6 is better than what it was last year, but might not be good enough. So that's still something that we're working to improve in the future. Which brings me to this part, the feedback portion, how to engage. So there are some ways to engage right now. Like I said, local assessment for analytics. That's a way that you could engage in PVOS, use some of these supports and data to help inform your decision making. I mentioned this is through a PIMS submission. It's open now. We collect BOY, MOY, EOY, beginning of year, middle of year, end of year data for your local assessments. And this collection remains open through, I think it's like the 26th of June. We wanted to give everyone time to give the EOY to submit. So that's something that you can do right now. You can submit 24-25 data, but also we've allowed submission of older data, and then we will tag it to the students' backpacks. So if you want to submit 1 year of data, awesome. If you want to submit 3 years of data, also fine. We'll tag it to the backpack and make sure that it tracks with the students. Like I said, the impact of local assessment is updating that student's assessment history. We will care for it over years, over schools, and even across LEAs. And then that's what provides that easy access. We also provide growth reporting, provided we have the data, like the beginning of the year to end of year data, both on value added and on diagnostic. But remember, local assessment is not available publicly. It's only available in your password protected site. The other thing that you could consider for the future is this idea of teacher-student linkage. The last collection happened already in January for this, and 270 LEAs participated. So we had a really great turnout for the very first year of an optional collection. So this was that, give us your teacher and their current students, and then we'll push it back to you in a single report for your teacher. So we plan to continue this in the future as well. Just as a view of the principal, something that in our first year I'm not really thrilled with is the principal gets to see all of their teachers, but a district administrator can't see anything. So it was just the way that we created them in a first year. So what if you're a principal and you have a principal account, you can see all of your teachers, and then you can click on each of their pre-populated lists. And that's because the way that we created them was through a principal's account, and then we pushed them out to each individual teacher. Well, it seemed like a good idea until later we realized that the district person could not access this. So we are working through improving that on year 2. So this is something that we plan to continue and then also improve over time. So what I would love to hear from you are, what are your wishes for PVOS as it continues to evolve? I gave you examples of wishes we've heard in the past and some changes that we made based on that. But really, I'm working my way across the state to gain feedback to say, how could PVOS be an even more useful tool for you? Some ideas I've heard so far are attendance data. What could you do about attendance data? Is there anything you could offer us with that? I'm not sure. We're investigating it though. So that's something that might be in the works. I've heard that people are using ClassLink, Clever single sign-on solutions, and they would like PVOS to be integrated with that so they don't have to worry about PVOS account names, passwords, and all of that stuff. So that's something that we're investigating too. We might launch a pilot this year of a single sign-on with selected districts in the state. And then I've heard, PVOS, you've got too many reports. When I go to the reports menu, there's too much stuff. So let's do a more integrated reporting experience. So that's something that we're actively working on. And just yesterday, we pushed a change to the site. So how you land on value added even looks a little bit different, because we're looking to integrate a couple of these features together so that you don't have to go to a separate place to find your teacher report. You can just choose, do I want to look at my school, my teacher, or my district? So that's something that's in the works now. So you might even see changes in your PVOS account today as we continue through that. So I don't mean to put anybody on the spot to say like, hey, give me your best idea right now. Certainly if you have a best idea, I want that right now. But we also have a QR code or a bit.ly link to collect these ideas. I'll be doing these presentations that I use for another month or so. So this link will remain open for a while. So I welcome you. If you have an idea for PVOS that would help you use it to make decisions, might help your teachers, might help your principals, I want to hear about that. So I do see that I have some things. Is there a plan to incorporate Firefly? We're investigating that. So the thing about PVOS is we can run our analysis only on assessments once they're scored, and once they're scored and finalized. So Firefly is still within its pilot year. We do have plans to investigate the Firefly data once it comes in, and if there's something that we can do with it, we will. So that's in the works. When creating a custom student reports and selecting added a student, can we have an option to download that list into an Excel report? That is a great question. So that I'm putting on the wish list. So CSR and then download to Excel.
Or CSV.
Or just get it out, right? Export it, download it. And that idea is, I would even say, like, think about that diagnostic report. If you take the time to click students off of the diagnostic report, it would be nice to be able to keep that somehow. So I would even extend that to, if I create something, I want to keep it. Like, how do I do that? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so Corinne, will the student linkage reporting become a default rather than an opt-in at some point? Well, right now, there is one required teacher-student linkage, and that is called the staff-student subtest, and that is for the primary purpose of pre-populating your roster verification files, like in PVOS. So that is required. So we actually take that. We understand that that's meant for roster verification, but we actually push these teacher-student linkages off that file too. So once a year, everybody gets a pushed list to them by default based on that staff-student subtest. But I mean, it comes out in April, which isn't a terribly helpful time, right? You might want it earlier than that. So the only requirement right now is staff-student subtest that we use to link teachers and students. We're talking about, we've heard from actually PIMS administrators in the field that they would like to share linkages more than twice a year. They want to keep that going. They want to make it part of just the things that they do. So we're working with the PIMS team. Next year, it's still an optional collection. So we encourage everyone to participate in it, but the only required linkage is the staff-student subtest. Thanks, Corinne. Perfect. So you have a slide deck that has some of these PVOS slides in it. In the event you want to continue the conversation at your district. We have a flyer explaining local assessment if that's something that you want to share with your principals, data specialists, PIMS administrators. We also have some flyers explaining that teacher-student linkages, these other collection. For teacher-student linkages, we have one for more of a curriculum audience and one for more of a PIMS type of audience, but they're both linked here. So you have ways to keep in touch. We would welcome the feedback via the link, or if you want to drop it in the chat, or if you want to unmute and tell me right now, all of those are fine. Or you could keep in touch with us via email. We have a PVOS hotline, and we also have an email at pdepvos@iu13.org. All right, with that, I've run out of things to say. I'm happy to take any questions, or I'm also happy to pass it right back over to the IU12 team.
Sorry. There was a question that came in with student backpack, and I think I know the question's answer, but I'll leave it to you. Is there PVOS data that's readily available, easily accessible through a student information system, well, PVOS really, to administrators or counselors?
So when it comes to accessing PVOS data, the access to PVOS data is determined locally. So we do a lot of account pre-population for you based on your staffing templates that are submitted through PIMS. There is an indicator on those templates that would say no PVOS access. So I think it's like NP. And we don't create accounts for anyone that has that no PVOS access. But otherwise, we are able to push out accounts. Now, in that pushing out of accounts, sometimes the counselor doesn't get linked in those staffing templates to PVOS. So if that's the case and you want your counselors to have access, which is, by the way, a great idea. There's a lot of student data here, a lot of history data, a lot of projections to inform course recommendations, course placement, college decisions. There's a lot of why your counselor might want to see this. You can always create their account locally. So the PVOS account structure is such that the school principal can create accounts for their school. So if you're looking to get your counselor access, it would be the school principal that could create them account, and then just make sure that they check off the button that allows access to student reports.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions?
Well, I appreciate the engagement. I appreciate the questions, and I appreciate the feedback. So PVOS will keep expanding, and we want to do it with your needs in mind. So if you have a thought after today, share it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Lori.
Yep. Bye-bye. Have a great meeting. See you.
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone again for joining. We will take just a couple minutes of a stretch break.
our CC reps. I know Laura is out today, so you have the rest of the crew here, and we have this for you. To start off, I'm going to pass it over to Corinne for the opening activity, the welcoming activity.
Good morning, everyone. So happy Friday, happy February. We invite you to do all the things, our norms and agreements there. So please do honor your humanity and get yourself to a good space here this morning. But our inclusive opening is just to open up some space. So we have February themed questions that you can either answer in the chat or unmute yourself. So choose one to answer and share out. So once every 4 years, February gets an extra day. If you had the extra day, what would you do? Or today is National Love Your Pet Day. So if you have pets and you love them, what are ways that you show your love for your pets? So in the chat or unmute, let us know what you do with an extra day or how do you love your pets?
I love my pets by spending my money on their vet bills instead of vacations.
Amen, Susan. Oh. Oh, I love the therapy dogs, bringing them to work, spending time with parents. Oh, empty my inbox. Ew. Right. Roughhousing with kiddos. Great. Taking the day off, going to Hershey Park. Woo. Drinking out of the bathroom sink. Oh, spending time with kids. Yay. Do something for yourself. Yes, please. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you sharing. Yes, going outside. Not today, though, right? For sure. Yes, pets. Well, I guess it depends on the type of pet. Doug said his pets are the only ones that listen. Well, mine don't. All right. Thank you, everyone. So we'll go ahead and jump into our announcements for the day. So our curriculum council meeting dates are there. So just a reminder. And we'll talk about the March one. So big news, yay, is that we have an update for our director. So we're welcoming Becky Gibney from Blast IU17 to the team. Should be here hopefully in April after the Easter break. So we are excited to have her here and she'll be able to I think be a fantastic asset to the team. So if anybody knows her from any work across the state, she is a phenomenal person to be adding to the team. So we're super excited. If you have any questions, let us know. I'll toss it over to Tanya for introductions for our new staff developer.
I'm excited to announce that we're adding to our staff developer expertise with another math person. Billy Jo Monday comes to us from Cumberland Valley School District, where she was a math specialist, math interventionist, working with primarily K-6, but she is jumping right in, and she will actually be at our next Science of Math training, which is on Tuesday, February 25th. Shameless plug, but just to let you know that Billy Jo's joining us.
Tanya. Exciting. So update for the March 21st CC rep meeting, we will be sending a survey out ahead of that meeting. You do have the option to triangulate data points with your principals, ESL coordinators, any other school or district leaders to get their information for planning purposes in 25-26 and how we can support that work. And just a note here that March 21st meeting will be held in person only, and we are not having a virtual meeting option. So before we sent out any of that information ahead of time, we wanted to just clarify that. We will be canceling the virtual option in PowerSchool. So if you have signed up for the virtual option and you get a cancellation notice, okay, please know that the entire meeting isn't canceled, just that virtual option. So if you do want to join us, it will be here in person. So please make sure that you register face-to-face. And Tanya has dropped the link into that slide for the registration for the face-to-face. Okay, so please make sure that you are registered face-to-face. Okay, if you have any questions, let us know.
So we have 2 upcoming webinars. The first one is on PSSA and Keystone Test Design. That is with Megan Clementi virtually from 9 to 10:30. The links on the agenda are the registration links for that webinar. It's going to be a regional webinar. And the other one is Brian Campbell and Abigail Rose from PDE. They're going to come in and talk about Future Ready PA Index. So if you have questions or thoughts or things you would like to know about these items, feel free to sign up and get yourself on the call. The next one is the Data Summit. The Data Summit is upcoming on March 24th through 26th. If you are planning on attending or have any of your team attending, we are going to be there. Corinne, myself, Jeremy, Doug, and Rebecca will all be there. And we are going to be presenting on March 26th. We have 3 presentations. One is looking at creating data stories. The second one is looking at how to use data for instructional and curricular planning. And the third one is looking at eligible content and standards and doing student success and assessment through that lens. So please come, we'd be happy to see you, and you can reach out to us and we'll share our contact information. And we're looking forward to everyone who is going. The next one is the Curriculum Council Retreat. The Curriculum Council Advisory Committee and Laura have been hard at work planning the June 11th and June 12th Curriculum Council Retreat for this year. The full day, Wednesday, and half-day Thursday event will again be held off-site at the lodges at Gettysburg. Plan to join us for select portions of the 3rd annual, largely vendor-sponsored event, or better yet, spend the entire time with us. The theme this year centers around career readiness and workforce development. New for 2025, Curriculum Council members are encouraged to invite a guest for Wednesday's program, featuring a keynote speaker and roundtables. Look for a save the date next week with more information. Forward all questions or requests for the event to Laura, and we hope you can join us. So please come out to the retreat. We also have this offering coming up at the IU, and there is a registration link on this PowerPoint slide. And this is benefit-based accountability. They have John Tanner from Brave Ed coming in, and they're talking about how education can be used, how education needs to change to allow for accountability on its impact. And this should be a great event. It is being held here, I believe. And finally, we need to introduce Meg Rischel, who is attending CC Reps for the first time.
Hey, Meg.
Hi, good
Meg.
morning. I didn't know I was getting a special spotlight.
When folks tell us that they are bringing a guest, we always like to welcome them. So apologies if anyone else has a guest here. We didn't know in advance, but if anybody else has anybody with them and they would like to welcome them, we welcome them to the group as well. But thanks for joining.
Thank you. I feel very welcomed.
Yes. And David, we have David from Hanover. He's here with Susan as well. They're going to do our spotlight, one of our spotlights for today. All right.
So I am going to pass it off for the spotlights to Corinne so she can
Yeah.
start us down that path.
Yep. And we will have David and Susan share their screen. There is a link to the presentation in there. So we can allow you all to see their presentation. They're going to talk about AI for admin. So thanks, Dr. Seipel and David, for being here.
Thank you very much. So this is going to be, I hope, really practical. What I would like to do is share with you how I make my job easier with AI. Now, you know, we have Mr. Fry who does all of our coding and all kinds of cool things. But what I'm going to show you is if you have nothing but ChatGPT and a free Gamma subscription, so that these are just really practical things that you can do. They're probably things that you're already doing. And maybe at the end, you can share out the things that you do. So I think I have 4 slides, and then Mr. Fry is just going to show some of the bells and whistles if you really want to craft really intricate prompts of things you can do. So this was our district path with AI. Our superintendent, Dr. Scola, it really led the way. He had gone to a lot of trainings around the country, and he had brought this back to us. So we did deliver a lot of professional development for our staff. We use AI for curriculum integration and instructional differentiation for our students, and we're teaching students to really think critically in their use of AI. So we continue to try to get a little bit better every year with our AI usage. So what I would like to show you is something that I do is I take any documents that I have and I put them in ChatGPT, and then I use Gamma to make presentations. So it's simply, I take a document that I have, like this one, I think I just pulled off of the PDE site of what are the parts of a comprehensive plan. I literally took that, uploaded it to ChatGPT, it summarized it, then I took that summary and pasted it into this website called Gamma, and then it created this presentation for me in just a couple of moments. So what's really nice about that is that I can quickly make things to show different stakeholder groups, our parent groups, things like that, of our processes, and it's really easy. Here's another one. This is, I literally took my agenda that I had already made, and I popped it into chat and then into Gamma, and that took all of the people's names and all of the different parts that we have and instantly makes the agenda a little more visually appealing for that group of people. So I wanted to show you that. And then I have the rest of the things. Oh, and Mr. Fry, do you mind doing the one called, I think, summarizing documents? So if you go to the toolkit, you know, we have that personal finance requirement starting with 2627 for financial literacy. And so again, I just took the information from the toolkit and then put it into chat and then uploaded it to Gamma. And so it created this presentation that I was then able to share with the teachers who are going to be teaching that to give them an idea. And then I did another one where kind of like the frequently asked questions page of, does it have to be a half credit or a full credit? Does it have to have this named? You know, can we do it in 8th grade? All those questions that people would ask, and the FAQ, it just makes it a little bit easier, because sometimes the documents from the state are just so long that to try to figure it out is difficult. So just using it to summarize things and then put into presentations has been really helpful. Another interesting thing that you can do, I won't have Mr. Fry, who's driving for me, open these, but the student planning guide, you can take your student planning guide that you have and you can upload that to Chat GPT, and you can make a nice summary of what your district offers, as well as presentations that you can put on your website, or you can share out to individual student groups. And then lastly, just for professional development. So we do a lot with college writing in our district. Again, you can, well, this one is the phenomena-based learning. So we take information that we have, and again, same thing, just Chat GPT and Gamma, and there you have what you want to share. And of course, you always need to go through and you need to check to make sure things are accurate. And you also, I usually customize it with real pictures from our district and things like that, but it's just a real time saver. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, and then our next slide. Just some ways that I save time with AI, and I bet you're probably already doing these things, but letters home after an emergency. So something really difficult has happened in your district, you type up what happened, and then just getting it to be refined. And then I don't know about you, I teach a lot of college classes, and people can really read what is AI. So I would make sure that you probably don't include some of those words that are normally included, like underscores, critical, crucial. There are words that just come up again and again with AI. So, like, you know, you want it to be human, and you can also run it through a humanizer, and that also will make it sound a little more natural. Something that I do is I generate my Title I agendas and compliance documents. So you'll have papers, and even if they're just PDFs, it also works, of what requirements you have for Title I, and then you can generate it. For example, we have to do our own, as a part of Title I, risk assessment internally. And so I was able to put in the names of our different stakeholders and how we run things, and then put together the whole outline of the meeting that we have to look at what are we doing for universal grants, guidance, etc. So you can use that for any requirement for Title I. Then something just like easy organizing book clubs. So with that, we do book studies with our teachers, and I can quickly get the teachers' names and assign them to the different chapters that they're responsible for. And I didn't put all of this on there, but like the questions that could be asked, how you could handle it, how you would divide up the time, reflections, that sort of thing is something that I've used it for before. Is this helpful at all to anyone? If it is, put a thumbs up. If it is not, I will stop. Okay, I can't see anybody, so I'll have to trust. Okay, so it's helpful for some, that's good. And then I also use it as a thought partner for difficult parents and students. And what I mean by that, if I have a really difficult situation going on, and I'm thinking, boy, how do I handle this? So I might say, you know, a parent has made a Title IX complaint regarding their daughter. We've investigated it and found it to be no evidence to support it. What are some ways I can still support this student and this family? And then it just gives me ideas of things that I may not have thought of. Also, if you have a student, of course, you're not going to use any student names. If you have a student that is struggling with their behavior, kind of putting in the characteristics that you're seeing and what might be some antecedents for, for that, so that you can get some ideas. I also use it just to generate ideas for PD. What are the tabletop exercises that we're doing surrounding a particular piece of PD? And then this one, disaggregating data from educational platform reports. So if you So I got this from something that I had with anchors and proficiency, but I was able to print out, make for each teacher then a summary of how their students are doing on each of the anchors of the PSSA, their class proficiency compared to their grade level and the difference, and then the area. And then at the bottom, a summary of how this teacher is doing, you know, compared to peers. And obviously we know we have different kids in each class and all of that, but it's a way for a teacher to see how they are doing. So you can use this for whatever reports you have. If you have Study Island or Ames Web or Dibbles or whatever you have, as long as you've redacted the student information, the student identifiers or the teacher identifiers, you can then upload any report, even if it's a PDF, to Gemini or OpenAI, and that's going to allow you to interpret different reports. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. I bet a lot of you are already doing that. Something else I do when the principals are setting goals of what they would like to have their goals be for, say, state assessment proficiency or whatever it is, making realistic goals based on current performance. Sometimes people just pull a number out of the air, like we're going to improve by 10%. Well, what does research and best practice say is a reasonable amount of growth in 1 year period of time? We also use it for curriculum writing and assessment building and changing lexile level or language on documents. So those are some things that that I do to save time. I think I have one more slide, and that is some other ideas: drafting documents, generating ideas, creating content, like, you know, interview questions, letters of reference, PD materials, summarizing information from different reports, improving the communication, and streamlining tasks. I use it a lot if I've done a teacher observation. Then I'll use that to offer suggestions moving forward based on the evidence that I've collected. It generates some really nice content and ideas that then I can, you know, refine for that teacher and paste into the system. I use it a lot for comprehensive planning and a lot of the other state reports on the portal, the Future Ready portal. I use it a lot for that. If you've got to summarize how your district does a certain curriculum or how your district handles something, I find documents that I already have, and then I use AI to put that in a format that I can then use on those state reports. So I hope that was helpful for you. And then we thought we would close out with just showing you, if you want to get a little more techie with it, some additional things you can do. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Fry, who's going to show you these things. He is our technology director.
Good morning, everyone. So we have a student information system that we built in-house over the last, I don't know, decade or so. And when AI came around, generative AI, we found that it worked really well to kind of take our system to the next level. So all of these are teacher ideas or staff suggestions that we're able to put into the program. So one of the first things was this idea of a prompt library. So we have in our system a prompt library where each one of these items leads to generate a prompt. So if you wanted to make a math word problem, you click on that box, it would ask you for the grade level that you are building the math word problem for, what standard or concept that you're building the math word problem for, and then it will actually generate a prompt, send it out to ChatGPT, and then insert it directly into our lessons, so that it makes it really easy for the teachers to differentiate for any of these items for multiple learning abilities. Kind of another thing, generating learning maps for a curriculum is always kind of a tedious process. So we've integrated a way to actually generate the entire learning map using AI. And this is something easy that you can do through ChatGPT too. You just say, hey, I want an LFS learning map. It needs to cover these items. Can you generate key learning unit essential questions and concepts? And it'll plop it right in there. We even asked it in this case to attach standards for ISTE standards, because I think this was a STEAM unit for 8th grade. Another thing that we found really useful with AI is actually we have an interest survey using the Holland interest profile, and you can take those interest profiles, and what we did was we took the interest profiles plus our program of study for the high school, and we give this interest survey in 7th grade, and we took all of the courses, the interest profile for the students, and uploaded it to ChatGPT, and we got back suggested careers, but also recommended courses for the high school. So the kids have an idea of what kind of different courses might be interesting to them when they get to high school, just kind of like a little something to start with when they talk to a guidance counselor. So one of the really cool things about generative AI is you can give it a lot of information and then interrogate it on that information. A good way to do this without building your own system is there is a product from Google called Notebook LM, where you can actually upload information and then you can ask it information. Basically, it's like build your own ChatGPT. You can actually add that information to there and then just ask it questions. In our system, what I do is I actually strip off all identifying information for students, and then I upload that information to ChatGPT, and then when it comes back, I actually switch back out the names so that we can actually ask questions based on students, specifically their strengths, their weaknesses, and then we can actually build dynamic groupings based on either benchmarks or for how they perform on different activities. So it's really fun. Sometimes you have to be really careful about what you ask it, because one thing we found with generative AI is it will always give you an answer and it will never say, I don't know. So it'll always come up with something. So sometimes you just have to do a little bit of a sanity check on the information you get back to make sure it actually makes sense and it's not just completely making up some information. So everything I've shown you so far is kind of on the operation side of AI. The other thing we felt was very important was actually educating students on using AI. So the solution we came up with was this assessment prompt that's built into our system. Basically, we have the students create a prompt that they can send to generative AI, but they only get one chance. So they have to build the best prompt that they can. They hit the generate button, they get a response back, and then they reflect on both the prompt and the response. So in this, I'm going to actually give you a different example than the one up there. We have an art teacher that actually did one on symmetry. And if the student just says, give me information about symmetry, it could give information on architectural symmetry or math symmetry. Math symmetry seems to be the most common one that it gets back. So then in the student's response is like, I didn't ask for something to do with art. And then the teacher grades them on both the prompt and then their reflection on the prompt's response. So it's kind of a way of a low stakes way of giving the students a little bit of experience with building prompts for generative AI. And one that we just added was a tutor and an interview section for students to access. So the AI tutor, you basically give it a concept and it uses that concept as guardrails so that the students can't really get outside of that concept. So if you ask it something about making cupcakes and you're talking about subtraction, it'll say that's not really relevant to what we're doing. Why don't you ask something about subtraction with regrouping? The best thing about the way we have this set up is it doesn't actually give you the answer. So you can badger it and pester it all you want, but it won't give you the answer. It'll walk you through, it'll take you through step by step on how you set it up. Now, one of the nice things about the way we have this set up is I have all of the Lexile levels for all the students in here. So one of the things that I embed in the prompts that I send out is the student's Lexile level. So the prompts are always returned at the student's reading level, which is pretty awesome. And then on the right-hand side is our interview. So you can interview basically any noun. So I have an example here of the Pacific Ocean, but you could also do any, person, idea, thing, pretty much anything. And then the last thing I wanted to show you, we actually have it set up to generate entire lessons. And so this is a screenshot from our Firefly system. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the lesson essential questions. And then this is for a drone piloting program that we have in the high school. And then I actually put in a little bit of a prompt. And then I will send that out to ChatGPT, and it will actually go through, build the entire lesson of a activating strategy, learning activities, summarizing strategy, and an assignment. And then this is, you can see it's starting to generate the code that Firefly uses. And then at the very bottom, once it's done, you'll be able to actually insert that directly into our system. So you can see that it has, pictures, it's got an assessment prompt. And we'll just skip ahead real quick. And there it is. There's an entire lesson. You hit the insert button, and then right there is our new lesson that was just created. So we've done a lot of cool things. A lot of these you can use in your own systems with a little bit of modification. So I believe you guys all have access to this presentation. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Seipel to finish this up.
Okay, so thank you for listening to us today. We really appreciate it. And I see some people have been putting in the chat how they're using AI. And I was wondering if anyone wanted to unmic and share. All right, well, thank you very much for having us today. And thank you, Mr. Fry, for joining me. I appreciate it.
You both. That was awesome. Appreciate that. All right, our next spotlight is Autumn Zeminski, and she's from our IU team here in Ed Tech. So Autumn, I'll toss it over to you, ma'am.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's so great to see all of you, even if it's virtually. I really loved what Susan and David both shared. And David, I'm always amazed at the things that you're able to do. Susan, there was one thing you were saying too about AI working as a thought partner for you. And I was thinking about our last CC rep meeting and how we were doing the working geniuses. And after talking to Matt about my working geniuses, I realized, I'm really I'll have the big picture. I can imagine the thing I want to build. And I'm really good at the very tiny details of making sure things happen, but I struggle with creating a plan, and a plan that I can clearly articulate to someone else. And so it's been really great to see how I can utilize AI to help me with those things that aren't necessarily things I'm really great at or that I enjoy doing. So I love that example of using it as a thought partner. So today's session with me is just really quick. It's kind of just an update on what's new with AI. I would say I'm a little bit obsessed listening to podcasts and just trying to get my hands on new information whenever I can. So we're going to do a little bit of everything. So bear with me. It's going to be a quick few minutes here, just kind of showing you what I found, what's new with AI, and feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'll have the chat box up as well and try to navigate that along with running the slide deck. So as Corinne shared, I'm Autumn Zeminski. I'm an educational technology specialist here at the LIU. I am really excited. So there in our footprint, there is an Apple group that is meeting typically every couple of months. And so we get to kind of see what's latest and greatest for those that are using Apple products, whether you're using it on your phone, iPads or your MacBook. And so really excited to see some of the things that are coming out with Apple Intelligence. I think for me, what I find most interesting is in one of our last sessions with them, they share with us this idea of sort of baking in the AI technology into our everyday tools. And we're seeing that more and more. Right now, like I'm still typically going to ChatGPT, doing some work and then bringing it over into the other platforms that I'm using. But I think as things continue to advance, we're going to see those things, baked in. And so one of the tools that I love right now that I've been using a lot is the writing tools inside of Apple Intelligence. So I typically will do this inside of the Notes app. You will need a iPhone 15 Pro or 16 for this. But if you don't have a new iPhone and you're not eligible for an upgrade yet, and you have a MacBook or iPad, this is a feature that is available. I have all the specs. I would have to give it to you. If you have questions, you can throw it in the chat. And when I'm done, I'll let you know if that'll work for you. I know it's the M1 chip and above. Most people probably don't know what they have, but I can work with you to help you with that. So it's really neat because obviously, you can do some of those same tools that we would do inside of ChatGPT. I know David talked a little bit about Notebook LM, and Brian mentioned it too, which Brian, I really loved your idea about using the podcast as a professional learning task. That was really brilliant, and I hadn't thought about it in that way. That was one of the things I was going to share here is Google is also really taking a focus into baking in that technology. And so using those podcasts is a big part of that. One of the things that I love is just the option to have those two hosts kind of going back and forth makes it feel a little bit more real, along with all of the other things that you can do inside of Notebook LM. I know this is something we've demoed before on our team, and David shared a little bit about it today, but if it's something that, you need help with or you have more questions about, feel free. You can always shoot me a message and I'll schedule a few minutes that we can look at that. All right, I'm talking really fast, sorry. So Google has Gemini, obviously. Most of us are familiar with it. I've started to play around with it and just trying to see kind of where it's headed. Right now, most of us are utilizing the free Google platform, that workspace. And Gemini integration is not yet available in the free workspace for education. However, we're kind of interested to see where this goes. We know it's paid right now, but I wanted to give you a screenshot of really how it works. This is a Google Doc in the background. Gemini will pop up and you're able to, put basically your prompt into the box here and then grab the file from your Google Drive. And then Gemini will use those items that you've selected to create a Google Doc for you for that grant proposal. So just really cool to see how they're baking it in, and wanted to kind of keep everybody on the forefront. AI is moving so quickly and it's hard to keep up. Even for myself, Nicole and I had just presented at SAS on Notebook LM, and we got home, and I think it was maybe 2 days later, the podcast feature came out. So it definitely is happening very quickly, but our goal is to help kind of just keep you on the up and up, because I know you're very busy and you don't necessarily have the time to learn all the new AI features. There was a podcast that I was listening to, and I really loved the message, and it really just talked about education for AI. And kind of the premise here was that, we're really focused right now on getting people kind of up off the ground and focused on the tool. But just kind of for myself, even looking forward, I'm thinking about how does AI act as a partner for education, right? So how are we moving away from it just being a tool? And I think we've all had this conversation with technology in general, right? We don't want it to just be a digital worksheet. And so that's kind of the space that we're living in right now, is really just trying to unpack all of that and take a look at how it's going to impact students and really enhance the overall teaching and learning that happens in our districts. So I wanted to try to find some numbers. What I'm going to tell you is that it's definitely not, these numbers aren't perfect. They're moving targets. There's 4 different sources for each of these numbers, but I thought it was worth looking at and just having some kind of quick conversation about it. But as you can see, the teacher usage here is showing about 20%. I think that's honestly a little low. Now, this figure again was 6 months ago, and I would say from last school year to this school year, there's definitely been an increase. You can see, sorry, I'm trying to move my chat around. District initiatives are at 65%, meaning that districts are creating policies and starting to have conversations around AI with their teachers. High school student usage is about 58%, where college usage is there just over 80%. And so, do any of these numbers surprise you? Do you feel like this is kind of what you're seeing in your district? You can just throw your thoughts in the chat if you are seeing, different things. I think it's nice to be able to get a feel for kind of what you're seeing here locally in our Tri-County area. Or you can unmute too. That's totally fine. Yeah, Susan, I agree with you. I have a slide that I'm going to touch on that, but if you want to jump in at any point, I would love to hear what you have to say about it.
What I
Southwestern.
found with, I'm sorry, Brian.
Oh, go ahead, Susan.
Thank you. What I've found is we have to get completely past now the fact that they're using it for everything, and instead make the assignment say, using AI or whatever tools you have available, create a project that, or that summarizes this. So like when it first started out, I was telling students not to use it. Then I was saying they could use it, but what the parameters are. And for these college kids in this situation, college kids, these people are working on their master's degrees, they're like 26, whatever. But I tell them now, I make assignments that, using whatever information you have available, make the most professional paper or professional presentation. So that's just something I'm doing. Sorry, Brian.
Brian, did
I
you
agree.
So, sorry, I
No,
lost
go
my
ahead,
mouse again.
Brian.
I have 4 screens going on right now, and I keep missing where my mouse is, so I apologize. So we at Southwest, I would say it's pretty similar. We just sent out a survey last week to our district staff on gathering information and their perceptions and their usage. And we're actually going to sit down this afternoon with a team that we've formed, sort of a steering committee on this topic. And we're going to go through and look and see. And we're really looking at sort of teacher usage, like what is it for their workflow? How will it occur with students? Who's using it? What are their perceptions? So there's definitely a variety of different examples out there. So I think we got about 60% of the staff that has responded. So with some good information. But we're in the mindset of trying to get teachers or staff to understand how to use it, to then be able to even use it with their kids. So one of the areas that we're going to probably focus on, but we know we have power users out there, and there's a variety of different things that they're using, but we also want to start to put some guardrails and look at what does our acceptable use policy already exist? How does this fall in? We're going back and forth on identify, thinking about, do we need a policy, or do we have existing policies that are already that cover this, and different things that we're going to put in student handbooks for next year. So I'd be happy to share where we're at with some of the stuff that we're attempting to do. So.
Yeah, Brian, that is like all great things that you said. There's so many things that I was resonating with. So I think for me, just as a former school leader, thinking about teacher usage, I know in general, like if they don't feel confident in those skill sets, that obviously those aren't going to translate over into the classroom, and it's going to be that sort of like red light automatically. And so we definitely need to beef up that. I'd love to hear what your numbers turn out to be when you get through that process. And even some of our internal work that I'm doing at the IU, we've been talking a lot about the things that you're saying and getting ready to work on. So would love to chat. That is all really good stuff. I know I'm close on time. I just wanted to share this Nebraska Omaha link. You can click on it, but it's really neat to see some of the classes they're actually using AI. Specifically, there was one on writing that I thought was really interesting, and I just wanted to share that with you here if you have time later on. But we internally at the IU have sort of our big five that we sort of use to guide this work and try to give assistance, I should say, to those who are sort of, working through this. And with the big five, you can see here kind of the process that we take through all of that. I think all of us are pretty aware of, like, we just have to first start about understanding what it is, addressing those legal and ethical concerns. How are we using it as a tool, starting to get people to use it, think about its impacts, and then obviously eventually leading to educating our students. And so in my former role, this tool had just been developed. I believe Nicole Bond was the person who created this, and she had shared it with me. And as a school principal and somebody who is very dedicated to educational technology, I found it to be really useful and starting to have a conversation around this work. So I did put the QR code here. It's just a Google sheet, and it kind of really helps you think through each of these pieces, whether you're going to develop a task force, how you're going to break down all of those. So you can grab that there from the QR code. I don't mind. I can also throw that link in the chat when I'm done presenting as well. But it's a great place to start. It's just even a great place to have some conversations with other members of your leadership team. I also want to remind you that we get consortium pricing, so state pricing through the IUs. Right now, we are working with School AI to get consortium pricing with them, along with some other apps as well. So if you're in need of any tools and you're looking at pricing, definitely reach out to Nicole Bond. We are just trying to stay ahead of this with all the work in AI. I know a lot of districts right now are kind of on the let's watch and see, and we completely understand that's where we're at too. And we want to make sure that when we spend our money, we're doing it with a company that is going to, stay with us for some time. And then I just wanted to share our professional learning menu. That QR code you can also scan there. We've been across the state, doing some of this AI work and helping to train teachers. And I wanted you to be able to see kind of what those sessions are. Nicole actually has linked in some of our slide decks as well. So if you need support in trying to train teachers, that information is there. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Autumn. That was fantastic. And Amy, Dr. Glusko, I saw you had your hand up. I didn't know if you wanted to share out something while
Well,
Autumn.
I was just on the topic, and I know this topic is over, so that's okay, but I see it through a bit of a different lens because I work with undergraduate students and their AI here at York College, as well as our grad students, but it's a lot different. We do have to have them cite if they do use AI. And I'm noticing as I'm taking these freshmen and sophomores through the process of how to write lesson plans and things like that, they don't so much have to really look at the standards and dig deep that way and learn from that way. So I definitely think they need to be able to use it, be taught how to use it. But I'm conflicted in that way because they don't need to go into SAS and they don't, all those type of things that I think are part of learning. And I know a lot of teachers aren't even using lesson plans anymore. We'll go out and we'll see districts that don't use lesson plans. And so for undergrads, that's tough because I still think they have to know the process of how they're going to be doing a lesson and formulating some of that themselves. So it's just different from my lens.
Yeah, Amy, I would agree. I feel like there are definitely places that it's appropriate and there are places that it's not, right? And that would be true like in a high school classroom that yes, they can utilize it for some things, but not all. And I think you make a great point. Like there's I don't know, there's a sense of pride that I feel when I've crafted a lesson and really thought about all those pieces and my students. And so I definitely agree with you. It's a tool, but it should always start and end with the human is kind of what we say, like that bookmark. So.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Autumn. And again, thank you to Dr. Seipel and Mr. Fry for giving us some fantastic things to look at and kind of chat and chew over here. So we're going to actually take a 5-minute break, and we encourage you to, again, honor your humanity and take good care of yourself, stretch, do whatever you need to do. We will come back and do the state updates at 9:55. So we'll put a timer up, and please take good care of you.
And can I just put a plug in that if you're thinking about anything that you heard over the last hour that you would want to expand on in a breakout room, please feel free to send those to me in the chat between now and the end of the state updates. Thank you.
Hey, well, thank you everyone for coming back for state updates. So I will go ahead and we'll get started. So Autumn, are you sharing about the STEM card?
I am. Thank you. Yes. So, as you can see on the STEM card, we have the Steel Summer Camp at Cadora State Park, June 17th and 18th, that I'm really excited about. So this is specifically for K-8 teachers. It is free. We are allowing 2 teachers from every district in our IU footprint to send these 2 teachers from the grades K-8, and the teachers will receive a $100 stipend. Our idea behind this was really that, our our teachers who are new to steels are sometimes, especially at the elementary level, lacking in confidence because they haven't had as many science experiences as a secondary teacher who has a degree in science specifically. And so we're really excited to offer this. It is just a fun opportunity for teachers to come and learn and get some hands-on experiences with experts in the field. There is a flyer there that you can click on. So again, every district has the opportunity to send 2 teachers. Like I said, it's free, and the teachers receive that $100 stipend. After March 5th, though, which is coming up soon, we are going to open it up beyond the IU footprint if all of the slots have not been filled. And that would allow, if you already have 2 teachers you're sending and there are slots open, you could send a 3rd or a 4th teacher as well. So just be aware, if you haven't taken the time to do this yet, and you are interested in this, you'll definitely want to get those 2 teachers into us. I can't even tell you how excited I am. There is a canoeing trip. We have a geologist coming. There is just so many great things happening with Science Camp, and I'm really, really excited, as you can probably tell. Then the Freesell Science Leadership courses listed there, some save the dates and things. I wanted to let you know also that the ELIT Hub is actually funding teachers to attend the NSTA conference. So if you have teachers that you would like to attend and you're having some funding issues, you can reach out to Abby Hathaway. She can help connect you with the ELIT Hub. We're really excited about that. That's going to give, again, our teachers another opportunity to kind of get out and see science in action. And that conference is a great one if you've never been. There is a save the date there just for a professional learning opportunity that I host. It's called STEM Stories. It's for K-6 teachers. And really the emphasis is, again, a lot of our elementary teachers haven't had that experience. I always joke that I had 2 science courses in my undergrad program. And in one of those courses, my professor sang songs on his guitar about frogs. So my knowledge of science definitely is not that of my high school colleagues. And so the confidence piece was definitely one of the biggest hurdles that I kind of had to overcome in teaching elementary science. And so what I do is I show teachers, especially that elementary level, how your passion for children's literature is still so important, but that's just not the first thing we're going to do in a science classroom anymore. And so that's on there. And I believe that is all for this section. I can wait, or I can go over to the educational technology card next, if that's okay. Thank you. All right. So Nicole Bond manages all of our subscription renewals. I know that a lot of you do that work with her and trying to make sure that all of your, subscriptions are ready for the next school year. She just wanted to let you know that those are going to be coming out in March and April. And if you can just keep an eye open for those. And then lastly, Nicole has created the WCAG accessibility course that is asynchronous, and there's information about that there if you have questions. I know members of ETAC, so our tech directors are typically in those meetings with Jared and Ben, and we have talked a lot about these accessibility guidelines and what this means for our districts. Again, if you have any questions on either one of those items, you can reach out to Nicole Bond. Thank you.
You, Autumn. So, Mike.
Thank you, Corinne. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be talking to you this morning about our online and student-centered learning happenings. Looking forward to summer school that's coming quickly, even though the temperatures don't seem like it. We are going to be making a couple of minor changes this year to allow for districts who were not able to participate in prior years because our window was so close to the end of the school year. We are going to back that up a little bit to the middle of June through the middle of July, because we know that not everybody's school year ends until a little bit before then. So the cost is there. It is not going up this year. We do award 1 credit for all credit recovery courses. So if a student took a class and they weren't successful, they take a half credit course with us. We award the full credit. If students want to advance credit, I don't know if your districts allow for that. We are going to offer some elective courses this summer as well. I will get a course list out to you soon, as well as a link for students to apply. They'll need to apply by June 13th, so I know it will be a tight turnaround between the end of your school year and the beginning of summer school. Just some updates on Lincoln Edge in general. We had a great first semester. Over 150 students were recognized with honor roll or distinguished honor roll. So that is really great news. And we recognize those students with certificates and notified districts. So really excited to recognize your students and the great achievements that they've made. There will be a meeting on March 27th. I keep saying this, but just make sure that your EDGE person for your district is participating in that meeting, just so we can give you some updates on the 25-26 school year. We've already announced that we have been able to reduce prices for Lincoln Edge for the remainder of this school year. Those price reductions will remain in effect for 25-26. Which is exciting, especially because if you've heard the news about the Auditor General and what they're looking at in terms of the cyber charters and how those are funded, and the continued result being that there needs to be reform. Hopefully that's going to happen, but we're proud to keep our prices pretty low and try to get your students either back from the cyber charters or keep them from going in the first place. And so we're going to be announcing some other ways that we can partner with your districts to try to get students back on your behalf from the cyber charters to save you some money. So that's coming in months to come. So I won't give you too much more there, but just know that that's coming as well. And just know that Lincoln Edge continues to thrive and that there's still room for all of your students if you need some assistance there. Just like Nicole, our consortium pricing quotes for 25-26 are coming out. I believe most districts have them already. We'll be looking for signatures here in a couple of months. There will be an in-person online learning job alike on April 10th, which will be great. There will be food. And so if you did not RSVP, let me know. It will be a great time for us to get together and network and share some best practices across districts. And just a heads up again that our school year ends on May 30th. If you need anything for online learning, be in touch with me. I'd be happy to help you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mike.
Mike. Hi, everybody. Just some high-level announcements for the training and consultation card, asking you to save the date, Thursday, August 7th. We are going to have our second annual Paraeducator Conference. It is a virtual conference, and we just got word that we are going to have the mom who founded Finding Cooper's Voice with which if any of you know about her, she and several other mothers have written a book called Finding Cooper's Voice about their experience with their children who have autism and how they've helped their voice be heard. So hopefully, if you are the one who's overseeing the paraeducator professional development, you know this is an option and can save the date. If not, if you can pass this along to your special ed director counterparts. Also this summer it's a difference. Patton is going to combine 3 of their conference offerings over the summer to be about supporting or empowering educators and partners to support the needs of our students, largely of our low incidence populations, but also secondary transition. And so that's save the date, July 28th to 31st. And since it's a summer, I do a summer offering. Hopefully you'll be able to pass that along now. One other thing I wanted to mention is that in our February cards for secondary transition offering, February is Career and Technical Education Month. And so you may want to tap into some of your secondary transition, or your secondary special ed teachers who are charged with writing secondary transition plans for the students identified with a disability. And there are lots of resources going out from Melissa Oberdorf and Lindsay McMurphy, and we run quarterly meetings. So you may want to check out that card, because some of those they're not necessarily just for our students with disabilities, but they're becoming very knowledgeable and able to support a lot of career and technical educational instructional practices. There are other cards here to check out, so please make sure you get a chance to do that. Additionally, I wanted to highlight on the MTSS card that we are all kind of gearing up, as you heard at the beginning of this meeting, for our needs assessment that's starting and, well, rolling out over the course of the next month, so that we can partner with you in whatever it is you're deciding to move forward with in your districts. And so whether you're doing school improvement work, comp planning, those dovetail very nicely and complement MTSS, right? In fact, if you look at the PDE website, school improvement should be actually built on MTSS. And so we have a lot of resources to help folks get started. In March, Patton is offering a half-day session on using data to sustain and expand systems, i.e. systems level frameworks. They are, this is a great opportunity to kind of get your feet wet if you're considering taking that step formally to build MTSS structures in your system at whatever level. But then also know that we are going to be offering, we've offered leadership series in the past. We've actually started offering some different kinds of service delivery option, because not everybody can bring a team to the IU. So we've done a couple different things, and I'm going to open up a breakout room at the end of today's meeting if anybody's interested and wants to know what some of those other options are. And in our academic card, specifically because we had our PVOS session this morning, but also thinking about all of the planning you might be doing, and if you're considering MTSS, we linked in a data evaluation folder. And this folder, if you click on it, these are some of the things that we share when we support the building of MTSS structures, specifically database decision-making, multiple tiers, and what are the instructional level decisions we're making and how we're monitoring them. So there's a system level look at tier 1 folder. There's a PVOS protocol that looks at, it's marrying the information that's in PVOS and your local assessment in order to make decisions about tier 1 through an MTSS lens. We also have some of our other grade level resources that are tried and true, and also intervention levels. So that has been linked in for you. And if you find any of those and you're like, Tanya, how does this work? Please don't hesitate to reach out. We've got lots of people who can support that. And I will put 2 plugs in for some sessions that we have coming up. Next Tuesday, we have a Science of Math, the Strands of Proficiency offering. So if you have any administrators or coaches or interventionists or specialists who really haven't had a chance to ask questions about what we mean by Science of Math, that would be a great session for you to send somebody to. There's still time to register. And then also next week, the Structured Literacy Advanced Phonics session. We're really excited because not only does this kind of go beyond that initial decoding, but in the afternoon, we offer you a very systematic way of looking at grade level data in order to reinforce the tier and also to drive your small group planning and how you support students who need a little more than the tier can provide. So hopefully you'll consider those. There are some other offerings. They're all equally fabulous. Hope to see you there. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy.
Thanks, Tanya. All right, so SEW. So on the top left of the card here, we have one remaining network meeting March 6th. These are also, again, like the last meeting later from 1 to 2:30. So if you haven't registered already, please register and get signed up so that you can join us for our very last meeting. If you take a look down at the bottom of the card, one of the new things that I put on there is called pulling it all together. And this is actually PSCA's Spring Virtual Conference. And here it features sessions for school counselors like career readiness, social emotional learning, and supervision. There's also going to be a keynote speaker, but in addition, we'll be working with skill building workshops that'll cover the escape rooms for Unity, supervision strategies, and then they have ambiguous loss in foster care and equity. So all of those are workshops that they will be offering during that virtual conference. The conference goes from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and they'll have various experts throughout the entire time. Next, I'd like to point over to the Aspiring Summit. So that's at the top of the page. This is going to be held at Shippensburg University on March 7th from 9:30 to 1:30 p.m. It'll be a professional development event designed for educators and mental health professionals. They offer networking, workshops, again, discussions on best practices in education, and the best way to support students. It's also aimed at fostering collaboration, improving outcomes for students across Pennsylvania. The last thing I want to point out is on the right side of the card. It's one thing that I just updated is Remake Learning Days. So this is a celebration for innovative learning experiences for K through 12 students across all of Pennsylvania. The students can earn digital badges for their career portfolios, which is kind of neat, and by attending the events during the day and completing a brief survey. There'll be events that'll be part of like live experiences with NASA, where they're going to look at weather station tours. They're going to look at robotics, sculpting, and even sort of flying drones. You have to register though before May 2025. All right. So the events are running from May 1st to the 23rd. And that's sort of all I have today for updates in regards to the card. We are going to take a short 2-minute processing break. So please don't go far. You can turn off your cameras, your mics, but we'll be back really quick.
The top, the department links. We do have a department link for our LIAP program. We also have a separate one for translation and interpretation. So you can go directly there, but both are housed under our LIAP program. So that is all for me today, and I am turning it over to Matt at this time.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to start with career readiness. This is a card that we share between educational technology and ourselves. And in the career readiness card, we're talking really about the Remake Learning Days, and that the Remake Learning Days again are from May 1st to the 23rd, and that we are looking at, we want to remind you to check your Future Ready and keep an eye on the reporting for your career standards benchmarks. That should be relatively simple to move forward through, but please keep an eye on that. You have the Remake Learning Days, and if you scroll down a little bit, I think it's there as well. You'll see the Aspiring Summit in that as well. And the focus there, one of the focuses there is career readiness. So we've put it on here as well. So let whomever you need to know. We're also looking forward to talking CTE at Frey-Cell next week. So that's the career readiness card. The College Board card. This is a very quick update. The PSAT SAT roundtable will be held here on 3/19. I'll make sure that you have access to the newsletter there, but please make sure if you have anyone who wants to talk about PSAT or SAT, the College Board will be here. It's very much similar to our AP roundtable. The College Board is providing all of the registration, and this is a regional event. So the final one is federal programs. Our federal programs updates are there are some grant opportunities that you have access to. I wanted to just make sure we highlight that there are going to be a number of different grants going on currently, and that if there's anything specifically that you're looking for, you can reach out to Doug. This flyer has all the information on the grants. So I know I'm not digging too much into them, but I know that each of you have a different need here. So thank you very much. And I am going to remind you that if there's something you wish to talk about, or there's a breakout room that you want to have, please message Tanya so we can get those breakout rooms created. We're going to do 2 breakout rooms. One is for school improvement that Crit and I will be in, and the other one will be for MTSS planning with Tanya. So I'm going to pass it over to Tanya for the intentional close.
Good morning, everybody. You've probably noticed that there's some changes to the language of our opening and closing, and that is as a result of some of new information shared by Castle. So the intentional close for today, thinking about what we've talked about this morning, you know, I say this jokingly, but who are you going to call or email or chat with around the data conversations that you were having, or even the AI, or maybe what data question do you want answered? This is really open. You don't have to do both. Just pick one. We just want you to kind of process what you heard today and what would be your next step, either who you're going to talk to or what question do you want answered. So you can unmute if you would like to share out loud, or if you want to share in the chat. We'll give you a couple minutes to craft that before we head out to our breakout rooms. Love it. Rena, Susan, expect a call. Rena's calling you. Love it. Thanks, everybody, for letting us know what resonated with you. And at this point, we're going to close out the meeting and send everybody the option to join one of our breakout rooms. And as always, the educational services personnel will stick around in the main room if you need us. But I am going to open them now. And hope you all have a fantastic weekend and that it warms up soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.